Yes, these little women might be leading a normal teenage life. A life of spring days spent with friends, talking about boys, U2, Michael Jackson, makeup, clothes, or maybe even Nancy Lopez. Were it not for a unique skill, Melissa Marlowe might be home in Salt Lake City, Utah today, bike riding through the mountains, reading a book, or just hanging out. But for her, that would be a drag. 4'7" Shelley Stack might be home in Houston, Texas, shopping with her mom, or maybe organizing her doll collection. But all those things will have to wait, for these are America's best gymnasts, with skills developed over hours, days, and years of training that has changed their lives, with sights set on the soon-to-come Olympic Games. From an ocean away comes a group of gymnasts that has made the same sacrifices. Oksana Emelianchik of the Soviet Union will not be reading Mark Twain or knitting in Kiev today, but showing off a talent. The road to the Olympic Games in Seoul, South Korea. We are live in Phoenix, Arizona. Almost a full house here at the Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum. We have just passed the halfway point in this dual meet between the United States and the Soviet Union women gymnasts. And the Soviet Union already has a very strong lead, almost a point and a half. And in a competition like this, that is indeed a large percentage to catch up for the United States. It has been a competition marked by falls in many instances for the United States, including one slip on the uneven bars by Melissa Marlowe of Salt Lake City.
And she's going to have to get her composure together for the balance beam. This is a tough event. This has been her nemesis, or so her coach says. However, on her side, even though this is going to be a fairly stock routine, according to her coach, Mark Lee, she has beautiful suppleness, great flexibility, and here's a planche, and so far she's moving quite well. Missy has a tendency to move cautiously, but so far she's being aggressive, especially on that gainer layout. Back walk over to another layout, smooth as can be. Tough scissor leap, a slight break there, not bad though. You can see her concentrating. A little hesitant on that straddle jump, just a little bit low. Required full turn, slight break there. Great flexibility. See her legs go out just slightly on that back walkover, but she has such control and strength in her arms. She holds on to it very well. And now preparing for a dismount. She cannot pause too long. Round off double pike, a little low on the ending, shoulders just slightly down.
After stumbling on one of her favorite and most successful events, the uneven bars, Melissa Marlowe completes her effort on the balance beam. Well, we welcome you to our coverage this afternoon live on ABC's Wide World of Sports. The United States and the Soviet Union in a continuing tradition now that dates back to 1982. Dual meets, team against team, with only an all-around competition, no individual awards for events. In the beginning, the United States dominated the first 2 years. Then there was a skipping of 2 years for the boycott years. And in the recent two-year competitions, the Soviet Union has dominated. And in this, the women's portion, they seem to be doing it again. Joining me, of course, you've already heard some of her commentary, is Kathy Rigby-McCoy. Kathy, halfway through this event, what has been the highlight?
Well, once again, with the depth and the strength the Soviets had, they're way out in front. And the brightest routine so far has come from 15-year-old Svetlana Boganskaya. She was third in the 1987 USSR competition, would like to win the gold. Now, the Americans have had some trouble after going gangbusters on the vault. They kind of fell all over the place on the uneven parallel bars. And, however, leading the way is Sabrina Marr, and we should see some good routines from her.
If you look there at Sabrina, I can tell you that Melissa Marlowe had a score of 9.80. For the United States, this is not only a story of the gymnasts that are here, a story of two that are missing. 1 year ago, she was America's new gymnastic phenomenon, Christy Phillips, seen here responding to the pressure in the last dual meet with the Soviet Union. All the buildup about this Bella Caroli-trained gymnast seemed to be well-founded. Today, however, Christy is not in Phoenix. Her body is undergoing many changes. Her weight is up a little bit, something not new in her family. And she is supposedly just not ready, according to her new coach, the coach of the U.S. team, Don Peters.
Everyone seems to be asking, you know, Christy didn't go to the American Cup. What's wrong? Christy didn't. Nothing's wrong. We're getting ready for the Olympic Games. That's our priority this year. She had to improve her work. She had to improve her routines. We had to do new routines to be more competitive. And in order to do that, you have to take time out from competition and do it.
I've got a completely new floor routine and a new bar routine and a new beam dismount. And, you know, just everything is coming along really good right now in training, and they're just not ready to be put out in front of everybody to see yet. And so I'm just really working on getting them perfected so that when I go out, I'll just blast away.
Not only will we not see the performance of Christy Phillips, but we will not see the performances of Phoebe Mills, the all-around champion at the recently completed American Cup. She has a broken finger, and she is here today watching with Becky Dixon, who's also with us. Becky?
Al, this is certainly a big disappointment for Phoebe. She had been training very hard for this event, but last week in a practice session, she broke one of the fingers on her left hand. Phoebe, what happened?
Well, I was practicing on bars, and I broke my middle finger and the knuckle part. I landed with the bent back.
When do you expect to be back in training, Phoebe?
Well, I should be back training in a few days or so. It's not going to be any big setback for me.
All right, best of luck this summer, and we'll see you at the Olympic trials. Al?
Now, the Soviet Union, while they have most of their top-flight gymnasts here, does not have their best team. They certainly don't have their best team without Elena Shushanova, who was the co-champion with her teammate Oksana Emelianchik in 1985 at the World Championships. As Sabrina Marr of the United States mounts the balance beam. The crowd here has been very supportive of the American gymnasts, even through some of their mishaps.
And Sabrina's really been tough here, and she's been plagued in the past by back injuries. Her coach says she will be depending more on her mental strength to help her through, since physically she's been unable to train like she wants to. There's 2 back handsprings, done quite well. Her experience has paid off so far in this competition. Very consistent. Once again, the required full turn with a half on the end. Moving quite well. Sabrina is aggressive on this event. A move you see on the men's side horse.
At the age of 17, already a veteran on this team. 1987, the all-around winner at the Pan American Games in 1987.
Excuse me, here comes a gainer, and she nails it. Sabrina, this is her meet. Her mental strength has come through for her. And now preparing for a dismount. It should be a double back. Quite good. Tough competitor.
I didn't see any sort of a hop there at the end at all.
No, she was really on that beam routine with a lot of pressure since the Americans have had such trouble on the other events. Let's take another look at that dismount. She gets good height. You can see she has to fit both feet right on that 4-inch piece of apparatus, and she does quite well. Good position, little slight step there, but the judges won't see that.
And there's her mother, Rose. We'll have her score in a moment. We'll return to ABC's Wide World of Sports after this message and a word. Live in Phoenix, the dual meet between the United States and the Soviet Union continuing. I'm Al Troutwig along with Kathy Rigby McCoy. We're watching Olga Strazeva of the Soviet Union. I can report to you that Sabrina Marr's score was 9.85, and she seemed relatively happy with it.
And so far, Olga's moving very well. I might mention she's #1 in the Soviet Union. They just had their national competition, and she beat them all. She's a very strong athlete, and practice, her conditioning regime is unbelievable. And she has a great deal of difficulty in this balancing routine so far. Back handspring, 2 back layouts. She had trouble in practice on that, but held on to it. Slight break there, but the difficulty is so high. And she's aggressive, just what the judges are looking for. The rhythm is good.
She might be one of the great success stories on the Soviet team. There was a time when she was considered hard-working, but not expressive or naturally artistic. And here she has emerged now to win the Soviet title in the all-around and have a firm place on the Soviet team.
Great double tuck dismount. Let's take another look at her bobble. She's just slightly off, and when you're working on a 4-inch piece of apparatus, the margin for error is so slim, and her shoulders were just off a little bit there. And her dismount that she takes so high. This gymnast is one to be reckoned with. You can bet in Seoul, Korea. Here's a dismount very, very high. Good dismount.
Now the judging is underway, and there have been some judging delays which have taken quite a long time here already today.
Well, basically what they do, there are 4 scores of the judges that are used for evaluation. The high and the low scores are eliminated. The 2 middles are averaged. When there is too large a discrepancy between judges, a conference is called. For example, between a 9.5 and a 10, there can only be 0.2 of a point difference between the judges. If one judge gave a 9.5 and the other 9.8, a conference is called. So the judges are then asked to explain some of their deductions by the head judge, and she helps decide.
Now, there was no conference in that particular case. The score for Starajeva is 9.875. We go back to an American gymnast, Do Yamashiro, who's 18 years of age, from Gardena, California.
And doing very well in this competition. And this is the first meet in a year that she has competed in due to a back injury. She did have back surgery last June. She's had to keep her nerves in check, and she's done so well. Back handspring, straddle down there. Done well there, showing her flexibility.
She had a disappointing 9.50 in the vault, which was the first event.
That's her weakest event, and that, once again, is due to her back injury. She hasn't been able to train on that like she would have liked to. Not quite as strong there, but the balance beam is a good event for her.
Her mother is American, her father is Japanese.
Preparing now for her gainer back layout, and she hits that very well.
Well, Kathy, you and I have been covering gymnastics on and off now for a couple of years, and we've watched some of these young women grow up from being little girls to being where they are right now, and they're approaching their big chance in Seoul, and it's getting really to be exciting, and you can almost sense it in their performances.
Absolutely. Not just from the Americans either. Everybody is warmed up, a little bit nervous. They're all anticipating how they will perform in Seoul. The Olympic year is a tough year for everybody mentally. Beautiful dismount. Cartwheel, double twisting, gainer off the side. One of the few in the world to do that. The only one to do it from a cartwheel.
And there are Ken and Diana Yamashiro. Ken had a dream to name his first daughter Do, and there she is. We'll have her score in a moment as we continue live from Phoenix. 8.5, identical to Sabrina Marr, the previous American to go on the balance beam. And now, the leader in the all-around competition, which is also underway here, Svetlana Boginskaya.
And she started off with a very difficult front flip mount, right into a gainer. This is a difficult event for her because sometimes she lets her nerves get the best of her. Concentrates very hard. Back handspring, layout, back handspring, and she nails that run. More and more you're seeing three acrobatic movements in a row. Combination tumbling. At one time that would have been thought impossible. She tied for third on this event at the World Championships. And she's being quite aggressive here. Her rhythm is good.
To give you an idea of how she thinks, you know, some people might have a collection and just leave it at that. She has a doll collection and has gone one step further. She gets the dolls to have removable limbs and movable legs, and she's able to move the dolls and create certain moves and routines that she is then able to use in her gymnastics routines.
Slight break there. 0.2 of a point. But she doesn't let that bother her, Al. You know, many times a person will get real cautious if they have little breaks in their routine, and they won't go as hard for different moves. But she moves very well. Down off double back, and she lands it. No steps.
She has the most serious of poker faces. You don't know if she's got a full house or nothing across the board, but she's been the best so far today. Svetlana Boginskaya, who needs a 9.875 to retain her lead in the all-around competition.
And talk about powerful. To get enough height on this front flip mount, you really have to be strong in the legs. She clears that beam, shoulders right down the center, and she nails it.
First Olympic qualifying match for men on their way to...
And this is always a relief, the end of the balance beam routine. Of course, you can't let down at all, but she has no trouble there on that double back.
The score for Bogunskaya is 9.85. And we have a tie in the all-around competition here in Phoenix. It is Soviets across the board in that competition. But Sabrina Marr is still right there and challenging. With one more event to go, the floor exercise, which is next. Up to Phoenix, Arizona, you're looking at a nearly full house at the Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum. A dual meet between the United States and the Soviet Union, the fifth such dual meet. Today the women, tomorrow we'll have the men for you on ABC Sports. And right now the Soviet Union has a very commanding lead over the United States, but it is in the all-around competition where the United States may be able to build some confidence for one of its gymnasts, and that is Sabrina Marr. Final warm-ups currently underway for floor exercise. Now, we have had some controversy follow the gymnastics team here, and it hasn't involved the Soviets at all. Bela Karolyi, it's been 7 years since he left his home in Romania. The coach of the legendary Nadia decided to defect to the U.S. in 1981. Becky Dixon has more on the Carolla story as it exists now.
For Bela Karolyi, this gym in Houston, Texas, has been his ticket to American success. It was here that Bela trained Mary Lou Retton, and now it is here that hundreds of other young girls come hoping to get their chance. All of this has afforded Bela a chance to realize one of his dreams, owning his own Texas ranch, complete with a bull named Gorbachev. But in spite of all his success, Bela has found more acceptance from the bull than he has from the U.S. gymnastics community. We all remember this scene from the 1984 Olympics, Bela and his bear hug for Mary Lou. But because he wasn't an official for the U.S. team, Bela wasn't even allowed on the floor. And the only reason he got this close to the competition was because an equipment company gave him a pass. 4 years later, and things have changed. Sort of. Although Bela's been overlooked twice as the women's coach, he at least has received official recognition from the U.S. Gymnastics Federation. He was recently named chief of the American Gymnastics delegation to Seoul. But this still won't allow him on the floor as a coach, because the coach is this man, Don Peters, and he says the chief of the delegation has other responsibilities.
Prestigious role. It's usually given to someone as a reward for their efforts in the sport, and I think that's part of the thinking behind giving him that position, is saying, you know, thank you for your contributions, etc., and it's a prestigious thing.
Bela, you have just been named chief of the American Gymnastics delegation. Now, what does that mean?
Basically, a delegation leader is supposed to go out and to be part of all the concerns. I'm supposed to respond of the welfare of the three different teams. That would be the rhythmic gymnastics, artistic gymnastics, I meant men's and women's, plus the men's gymnastics, which is, again, another team. Now, beside these things, I know probably the biggest advantage from my standpoint is I can be very, very close to my girls and to my athletes, those who are going to compete. And that's going to give me an opportunity to communicate with them, to give them the last indication, to give them the little boost what they really, really need on those very important moments.
But you're not the coach.
I'm not the coach.
I think he's going to play a very instrumental role in the politics that's involved in that. And that's, I think, you know, going to be his main function.
What about coaching?
No, I'm the coach. Bela's the delegation leader.
Do you think there will be a conflict?
No, I guarantee you there won't be.
We'll be ready. So this oft-times uneasy situation in which Don Peters has retained his power and prevented Bela Karolyi from becoming an assistant coach through a 7-person committee which he appointed, now seems to be a little bit better than it ever has been, because Mike Jackie, the executive director of the United States Gymnastics Federation, placed Bela Karolyi in the position he has now. He does have some contact with the gymnasts, though not officially an assistant coach. This is Natalia Frolova as we begin floor exercise, the final routine.
As I mentioned, the depth of the Soviet team is what makes them so great, and Frolova is not the sparkler on the team, but she certainly is a great tell player. Wonderful pull-in double back there.
Kathy, in light of the music, I'm really glad you're giving us the facts and only the facts.
Soviet routines are always choreographed so well. They have 3 tumbling runs, whip over, back handspring, triple twist, not quite all the way around on that triple. One of the things you try to do in your routine is get that audience participation. It always helps. If not the judges, the confidence level. And now preparing for her last tumbling run. We always talk about endurance here. It's so important to really get that push for that last tumbling run. Double back a little bit low, didn't get quite enough height. Strong routine, though.
Beautifully done. She grabbed the crowd's attention right at the beginning with her selection of dragnet music, and they paid attention right down the whole routine. Natalia Frolova of the Soviet Union from the city of Leningrad. And boy, it must be beautiful there today. Springtime in Leningrad.
Take another look at her tumbling run. As I said, endurance plays such a big part on the floor exercise, although it used to be that, see, you can see there her shoulders are down. There used to be a flat mat, and now they have springs under the mat, which is a big help. Scissor leap there. And she's relieved at this point.
She lists her hobby as listening to music, and I think you can tell she has listened to an awful lot to come up with that. Natalia Frolova. Now, after 3 events, the vault, uneven bars, and balance beam, you can see the lead of the Soviet Union, 148.425 to 146. Now, that's an insurmountable lead for the United States. However, the all-around competition sees Sabrina Marr right in the thick of things. She is currently in 3rd place. And that will mean a very important floor exercise routine is coming up for her as we can. United States and the Soviet Union. We've come down to the floor exercise, which is the final event in this competition between the United States and the Soviet Union. Sabrina Marr, daughter of Chinese parents, may be peaking at just the right time for the Olympic Games in Seoul. Becky Dixon asked her what she likes about gymnastics.
I like the travel. The travel comes in well for experience purposes, such as living with different families in different nations and countries. I think that pretty much is the best advantage.
And I know you had a special trip to China.
Yeah, that was the best trip by far. Just seeing my heritage and ancestry, it was a lot of fun.
5 scores.
And Kathy, we have the good fortune of accompanying Sabrina on a lot of her ventures in and around Peking. As Rose Marr, Sabrina's mother, was also there. She came to the United States from Canton, China. Now, Sabrina, as we've mentioned, is right in the middle of the all-around race. But before she has a chance to go, we have much more entertaining floor exercise routine to look at. Here's Natalia Lashenova of the Soviet Union.
An extremely talented gymnast. Watching her in practice, you think that she has everything physically to be the best in the world. Unfortunately, she's a little bit unpredictable in competition and still is unproven. But what a talent. Watch this opening tumbling run. Look, double layout, great height. She nails the landing. Believe me, she will get that crowd on her side any moment.
In a compulsory competition that was held earlier this week here in Phoenix, which did not count towards the scores that are being tabulated here today, Natalia was #1 of all the gymnasts.
There's her whip over to a double tuck, and it's so easy for her. Great strength. Full twisting back handspring there. Secret to gymnastics, making it look easy. Taking a little breather before her final tumbling run. Full and double back. You can't get better than that. Extremely difficult move to end a routine with.
4'7", 69 pounds. You remember in the Wood Memorial today? Well, the horses almost ran with 2 Natalia Lashenovas on their back in that race today. On the uneven bars, Natalia Lashenova would be right in the middle of the all-around race, especially when you consider her floor exercise score of 9.975. And now back to beautiful Melissa Marlowe of the United States.
And this is new music and a brand new exercise for Melissa. She's delicate, she's supple, but she sure demonstrates power. As you will see right here in her first tumbling run. Pull in double back. A little bit low with the shoulders there. Great flexibility. In 1987 was voted Athlete of the Year by her teammates. Another critical tumbling run coming up here. Actually, you will see 2 tumbling runs in one. Start off in one direction, right into a punch front. Little momentum loss there, not much. To another double twist. Of all the Americans, she has some of the nicest dance movements. Most polished in that area. And her last tumbling run, a double pike. Real low there. Just doesn't seem to have the energy.
And a sigh of relief from Janine Marlowe. Melissa's parents are divorced, and unfortunately Janine sits there, and Father Jim is sitting somewhere else in the arena. Marlowe's score, 9.275. She had a couple of major mistakes, and she's obviously disappointed with that. Her day is complete, but still the floor exercise still to go for Oksana Omelianchik, who was tied with her teammate Helena Shushanova in 1985 for the World Championship.
And just started out with a bang, a triple twist right into a punch front. But more than the tumbling, what makes her so great on the floor exercise is her dramatic ability, her dance ability. She is one of the best in the world as far as her dance is concerned. She just brings this floor alive. Now watch this tumbling run. She really invented back and forth tumbling. Watch this. Moving right along. And now her last tumbling run. What a captivating gymnast. Round off back handspring, double pike, almost gets her nose to the ground, but she pulls it off. What a routine. Extremely talented. Started out as a dancer and a figure skater at the age of 5 years old.
Always entertaining to watch.
Let's see if this is the combination tumbling run, round off back handspring. Nice height, and it's amazing how she gets the momentum going forward again. But she's at the right angle. So smooth here. Full twisting, front Arabian, and she just stands it right up.
Oksana Omelianchik burying her head in her hands. I'm not so sure whether she's not feeling well or disappointed. We'll have her score in a moment, but right now we can tell you that it's 9.975. And let's go to Frank Gifford once again. We welcome you back to Phoenix, Arizona. We continue now the United States and the Soviet Union into the last event, floor exercise. I'm Al Troutwig along with Kathy Rigby-McCoy. Now here is the most important story. The women's all-around race after 3 rotations now into this floor exercise. Sabrina Marr, only 0.25 of a point behind the top 2 Soviet gymnasts. And currently out on the floor is Svetlana Boginskaya, who is the leader in the all-around.
And she did one of the highest full and double backs of the competition. You know, it's interesting, the places in the Soviet Union change all the time. It just shows you the level and the depth of the team. She was 5th at the USSR National Championship. Here's her combination tumbling run. Really polished choreography here. Routine lasts a minute to a minute 30. The exercise should show elements of tumbling, flexibility, balance, and dance, of course. And strategically planned so there's enough endurance to finish this last tumbling run. Punch front, round off back handspring, double twist. No trouble there. Great exercise again.
Svetlana needs a 9.75 to take the all-around lead. But still, the Soviet gymnast she was tied with still is yet to come, as is Sabrina Marr, who was behind the two of them. Now, tomorrow on ABC Sports, we have a very busy day. As already mentioned, we have the men's marathon as we begin our coverage of the U.S. Olympic trials that will be live, except on the West Coast, from the New Jersey waterfront. We will be back with you, United States and the Soviet Union. This time it will be the men's gymnastics in the dual meet. We'll have a chance to show you an awful lot about where we stand in comparison with the Soviet Union as far as the men are concerned. And then Mutual of Omaha's Spirit of Adventure, something that looks very unique, dangerous, and interesting. The Headhunter's Legacy. That's tomorrow at 5 Eastern Time. So a busy day ahead tomorrow on ABC Sports. 9.975 for Boginskaya. And now we'll see whether Sabrina Marr has a chance.
She certainly has the difficulty and ability.
Mathematically now, she cannot take the lead as a result of what Boginskaya's score was. But still a top 3 for Sabrina. If she can hold it, would be a major accomplishment.
And you can see with a smile on her face, she did very well on that double layout. Critical part for her in her exercise. You mentioned that her parents were Chinese, but she says with this music she's making a statement. She is an American, and this is born in the USA. Double twist there.
Mother Rose watching.
Undoubtedly holding her breath. Just hold on to this double back. Good effort, good push. Very nice.
And out of a cloudy day comes a ray of sunshine, Sabrina Marr.
And her great intestinal fortitude has paid off. The highlight of her competition. Double tuck here. She held on to it with absolutely no trouble. You can see it in her face.
And our award ceremony is coming up.
She needs a 9.95 to take over second place. And we'll know in a moment whether you do not cash in your tickets until the results are official. This was Sabrina Marr just moments ago when she thought her score was 9.975.
And our awards ceremony is coming up right after our final competitor today, Shelley Sack. The next competitor, though, is from the Soviet Union. Score for Sabrina Marr.
Sabrina Marr found out that her score...
9.975.
There it is. And moments later, Sabrina Marr found out that her corrected score was 9.925, which means that she is tied for second place in the all-around race with Oksana Emelianchik of the Soviet Union. And when you talk about being tied with Oksana Emelianchik, you're talking about being tied with one of the best gymnasts in the world. Now, that is certainly something for Sabrina to be very proud of here today, although I'm sure she rode quite a roller coaster there for a moment, thinking that she had second place all to herself.
I think it was an unfortunate mistake by the judges, but this has to give her an awful lot of confidence looking forward to the Olympics. Miscalculation by the judges. Everybody makes mistakes.
Now, still the one gymnast left to go who might be able to severely affect the standing here is Olga Strazeva, who was tied for the lead for the all-around coming into this, the final event, floor exercise. We continue now with Do Yamashiro of the United States.
And this is Do's favorite event. She begins with a mount that's quite popular, a full-in double back. No, she decided to do a double tuck, playing it a little bit safer. Done very well, especially since this is the first competition in over a year. She's kept her nerves in check.
And her first major international competition ever.
The Soviets can be intimidating, but she did not succumb to the pressure. Double twist punch front. Did it very well. Choreography has come so far over the last 10 years. Much more dramatic than it used to be. Much more expressive. Oh, break right there. But she covered it up very well.
There again, the parents of Do Yamashiro, Ken and Diana Yamashiro. She said a couple of little mistakes here today, but in your first major international competition, you just want to get through the experience.
Especially facing the Soviets. On this last tumbling run, looked as if she just didn't get quite enough height. Double pike, she pulled it in hard, but ended up going right into a front somersault. Good cover-up, though.
And Do Yamashiro's score is still to come as 5 as he talks things over with the U.S. coach, Don Peters. And that means now we will find out just whether Olga Strazeva can perhaps win the all-around. She would need a perfect 10 to do that. Maybe tie for the lead. She would need a 9.975 to do that. Or from an American perspective, move ahead of Sabrina Marr. She would need a 9.75 to do that.
And she's certainly capable of that. Once again, we point out her strength, her great flexibility. Double front handspring to a double front. Rarely ever seen in gymnastics, top gymnastics. Usually we see a lot of back handsprings, but to do front handsprings like that is almost unheard of. Not many doing it.
Now, the way the judging has gone today, a 9.75 would mean a pretty major mistake, and the Soviet gymnasts just don't frequently make mistakes like that.
First and second tumbling run, whip over, double tuck. Oh, there's a slight break there. Just a little jarring movement after her double back. And I mentioned she's also playing it a little bit safe on that second tumbling run. She does have a full-in double back. Let's see if she puts it at the end. Pause there. Pull in double back. She does do it at the very end. And she should be happy with that exercise.
Well, that'll be good enough to change the standings. A year ago, Christy Phillips won the all-around for the United States. This year, Christy's not, but Sabrina is. How will she finish? Feel the lead from Svetlana Boginskaya of the Soviet Union. She is the women's all-around champion. But Sabrina Marr finishes in a tie for third. She's with Becky Dixon.
Sabrina, congratulations on a wonderful performance. Are you right where you want to be on your timetable for Seoul?
I'm exactly where I want to be. I think I'm a little bit ahead of the game because I've done so well in this competition, and I did better than I expected to do.
All right, congratulations and good luck the rest of the summer.
Al?
All right, Becky, the Soviet Union currently ranks behind Romania, but they look like world beaters right now. In Phoenix, we'll see you tomorrow with the men on ABC.
Thank you very much, Al.